Welcome to the joint podcast with the Victors Nation and Skyu Pod. The battle for the Little Brown Jug is on. I am your host, Jason Robinson. Both pods are brought to you by Big Banter Sports. Make sure you follow them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and visit us at bigbantersports.com to get your new sports involving Big Ten football. With me are my people, Derek McCarty and Dre Fame. We want to welcome Kurt, Max, and Spencer from the Minnesota Pods. What's up, dudes? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're looking forward to another matchup for the Little Brown Jug and hoping to pull something off here on Saturday night.
It's been a minute since 2020, so it's been a little while.
Yeah.
Max, Kurt, Spencer, can I get a go blue from you guys?
Let's go.
No. I'll politely decline.
All right, let's jump to the questions.
We'll have to revisit at the end of the podcast. We got the Nebraska guys last week to make a wager with us on the spread of the game. So they should be starting their first podcast this week with a go blue because we covered. So
they're going to be bantering with each other too, Derek. I think there's going to be some arguments after that game. Oof.
They will. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Awesome to have you.
Y'all want to make a little wager?
Yeah, we might have one. But let's take a look ahead. So going into week 6 of college football already somehow, and I don't think there's any surprises with where we're at being 5-0. I think that what we looked like this past week against Nebraska is kind of the Michigan football that everyone expected to see. And so I guess before we necessarily get into the matchup, what are your thoughts on the first few weeks of the season for Minnesota? What are your thoughts on where Minnesota's at right now?
I'll start. Yeah, it's been so up and down already. Like, it's just, the first game, our offense was dead until the fourth quarter. We were able to pull out that comeback against Nebraska. I think, Ethan had a tough week 3 game against North Carolina, but since that North Carolina game, he's looked pretty solid, although they're not letting him do a whole lot. Darius Taylor's been a nice surprise at running back. So I think the offense is kind of trending the right way. But now it's kind of some inexperience on defense that I feel like is hurting this team. Usually a pretty well-coached defense. I think we still are. I just think there's young guys that are getting their eyes in the wrong spot. I do think, I've said this before, I stand by it. I think the defense is one of our more athletic defenses we've had. It's just, especially at the linebacker level, a lot of new starters and guys that we weren't expecting to have to play yet, but due to injuries are. So little worried, especially against Michigan, coming out here trying to just, basically pound everybody into submission. Wish we had our starting guys out there. Maybe they'll be back. I'm not holding my breath for that, though. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm a little disappointed. You do play a great, North Carolina team on the road, and, to lose that game, some would say it's expected, but to lose in the way that they did, I was a little disappointed. I kind of wanted, a nice toe-to-toe kind of game, but it just seemed like when they were on offense, they kind of dominated, and it was a little surprising to see that at a usually disciplined defense from the Gophers that, like Kurt said, has been well coached and really doesn't give up big plays. But it seems like since that game, the North Carolina game, it opened the floodgates on big plays that have been being made on the defense. And it's really uncharacteristic of this Joe Rossi defense that we've seen over the past few years. I think that, it's like Kurt said, there's a lot of young guys. There's room for improvement. I don't think it's over. I don't think the season's in jeopardy. But it'll be interesting to see the adjustments that'll be made. Offensively, I do like Ethan. He's been improving. I do hope that they kind of give him more reps throwing the ball. As you all know, Minnesota prides itself on pounding the football, just, 30, 40 carries a game in their running backs. But for a young quarterback like Ethan, we'd like to see him get reps in just so that, when you play big teams like Michigan or like your rivals like Iowa, Wisconsin, you're going to have to throw the ball and be successful in the air as well as running the ball. And the only way to get better is by actually doing, throwing the ball. So I think that we're trending in the right direction. But we'll just have to wait and see how these next few games play out.
Yeah, for me, it seems like so far this season, we had a lot of questions coming in, just a lot of new faces, and we were so used to seeing Tanner Morgan and Mo Ibrahim for the last, what feels like 28 years. So we had a lot, we really didn't know what to expect from this offense, and a lot of turnover on the defense too. But yeah, so far this year, it feels like it's a little bit of an identity crisis for the Gophers because we're so used to just run heavy, bend but don't break defense. And you come out, the first game, Ethan throws the ball 40 times plus against Nebraska. Our offense doesn't do well, but the defense plays great. Same with Eastern Michigan. We kind of play conservative, great defense. North Carolina, we couldn't do anything. And then after that, it was like, the Northwestern game happens. The defense looks terrible. The offense can't, they look good in the first half, and then we kind of shut it down. And then the last game, offense picks it up. We lose Darius Taylor, our top back right now, it looks like. And the defense still looks a little bit leaky, just some chunk plays. So for me, I don't know what, the first few games, it was okay, our offense is going to be what it is, and the defense is going to be the strength. And now I feel like I don't even know what the strength of the team is. I think there's a lot of potential around the field, but yeah, to me, I feel like every game's going to be different from here on out because it seems like there's just inconsistency, but a lot of potential. So I'm still optimistic for the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, let's take a look ahead then. Let's look ahead to this upcoming weekend. So Jason, Dre, obviously we're looking to move to 6-0 and hopefully to do so pretty comfortably. Just so you guys know, the three of us are actually going to be there this weekend. So we'll be in around town before the game. We'll be in the stadium. So if you guys want to meet up, rag on us, poke some fun at us, we'll be around to do it. But let's look ahead at some of these matchups. So let's start with when Minnesota has the ball. When you guys have the ball, what are your expectations? What do you expect to see out of the Minnesota offense against the Michigan defense? And if there's any key matchups that you're looking to try and take advantage of, or that you're excited about, what are those key matchups?
Oh, well, given that Michigan's defense hasn't given up, more than 7 points all year in a single game, I don't know if I'm excited to see any matchup. I don't know if excited is the word. I guess I'm curious to see how the O-line holds up because, week one was kind of a struggle bus for them as they had 3 new starters, so didn't really have the chemistry down. I think since that game, though, they've been the strength of the offense. So that would be what I'm looking for the most is, can they allow us to run the ball as much as PJ is going to want to run the ball? Michigan's defense has been phenomenal. So it's going to be probably the toughest defense they play all year. So that's what I'm going to be watching for, because if we want any chance of winning, we're going to have to squeak out, some 4 or 5 yard runs just to keep the chains moving, keep the offense on the field here and there. So that would be the matchup that I'm looking forward to the most. Yeah.
And I would second that. I think that against a team like Michigan, you have to stick to your bread and butter and what you're good at, and that's running the football. Also, sometimes I disagree with this. PJ is very conservative, but I think offensively you have to hold on to the football. I think you have to just keep time of possession in your favor and just hold on to the ball and just try and score points and prevent them from getting the ball. So I just think that if they stay disciplined, don't turn the ball over, run effectively, stay strong up front, that's the best way that, you can combat this defense. I don't think that throwing the football will be as effective. I don't think that, there are some athletes that surround Ethan, but, against this solid defense, I don't know if we have the experience and the reps to get in to make big plays, especially. Maybe you can get some slants in or some quick outs, but I'm not expecting any big time plays from the Gophers.
Yeah, for me from last game, with Darius Taylor out, we did finally get to see Zach Evans, a young running back. We were pretty excited about coming into the year, and we hadn't seen him really at all until last game. So for me, I'm hoping we see, we kind of spread the ball around between the different three, even maybe possibly four running backs if Darius Taylor is back. Because it feels like we sometimes just slam the same running back into the offensive line, in the defensive front over and over and over again, and we're just not going to be able to do that successfully or efficiently against a Michigan defense that's been, essentially one of probably the best defense potentially in the country. So if we can utilize each running back, because Darius Taylor can kind of do it all. Bryce Williams is kind of the big power back. Sean Tyler is the smaller outside running back, receiving type running back. And Zach Evans is kind of in between there too. So if we can use those four backs to our advantage to kind of, make the offense look different depending on who's on the field, and spreading it out to our different receivers too. Utilizing Daniel Jackson and Corey Crooms in different ways that they can, play to their own strengths, instead of just, making it look like the same offense over and over and over again that Michigan would have no problem stopping. So it's really just, if we can figure out what works and kind of stick to that and get creative, I think that's really our only shot.
Yeah. Do you guys expect to see the offense throw in some wrinkles, knowing that in all likelihood that they're probably coming to the game knowing that they're outmatched? Do you think that you're going to see some like flea flicker, like type shot plays that they throw at us, or do you think that they're going to come in with the conservative approach and try to slow the game down, reduce the number of drives, let the new clock rules come into effect, and hope that keeps the game close and that a couple big plays here or there might turn it into a ball game?
Yeah, option 2 all the way. I would personally, I would come out opposite. I would just why hold anything back? Just come out and throw everything you can at them. But and that's not to say don't come out, go air raid. That would be stupid. We're best at running the football, but I've seen PJ for 7 years now. I don't know have we ran a trick play. Nebraska, we ran an end around. That's as trick play as I've seen of PJ get. Yeah, I'd love to see
still be intense, but yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. So, no, the answer is no. I don't think you'll see anything crazy out of us. I'd love first play running a hook and ladder, but no, unfortunately not. I've seen enough.
Awesome. Dre, I'll start with you. What do you expect to see out of the Michigan defense in this matchup when Minnesota's got the ball? Dre, you on? Jason, we'll turn it over to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, gotcha. What do you expect to see, Dre, when Michigan's on defense, when Minnesota has the ball? What do you expect to see out of Michigan's defense this week?
Like the guy said, they are a running team, so I expect them to come out running. They have the number one running back in the Big Ten in Darius Taylor. He has 87 rushes for 532 yards and 4 touchdowns. He averaged 6.1 yards. So I think they're gonna try to use him a lot in trick ways. Actually, I don't think they're gonna run it straight up the middle. I think they're gonna try to get around and use him in other ways than what they have been using. So that's what I expect to see.
Gotcha. Jason, what about you?
I think you're playing this Michigan defense. So they're playing this Michigan defense, and I think Minnesota is actually going to come out throwing. I think they're going to come out throwing to open up the run game a little bit as well too. Now we talked about their bread and butter is the run game. With Michigan's defensive front, I just don't see it. I don't see the same score as we did with Nebraska, but I think we're going to be able to hold their rushing team, which Nebraska, with their quarterback and their leading rusher, led the Big Ten last week, and we completely put a halt to that. So I think we're going to see a similar game. I'm not saying the score is going to be the same. I'm just saying what type of offense we're actually going to see. But I think Minnesota is going to come out throwing the ball a little bit. I think they're going to throw it up the middle as well too. Screen plays of their halfbacks and then short tosses their tight ends as well. But with Michigan's front defensive line and their linebacker core, I just don't think Minnesota's going to establish much of a running game, which is what they're comfortable with.
If I could throw a question out to you three,
Yeah.
you know, just
I mean, I
just
didn't
from
say
an
they were going to
outside
establish it. I
perspective,
just think they're going start with it.
Yeah.
I think we'll try to. Yeah, I agree.
Go
Question
ahead,
for
I'm
you
sorry.
guys. No, that's okay. From outside perspective, you know, we hear a lot about just the entire Michigan defense as a whole. You know, and my message to you guys, I wasn't a shot, but I referenced like a no-star defense just because I don't hear a lot of individual names brought up when this defense is referenced. If you had to go with like one or two guys who are like, not that you're declaring an MVP at this point, but like most valuable to your defense right now, who would those guys be and what position are they at?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with that. So it's funny that you say that because Michigan actually talks about their defense. The players, the coaching staff refers to their defense as a no-star defense. That's been kind of the mentality that they took on after they had David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson, where they had
Ojabo.
what was a star-studded defense, and they moved on. And the question was, well, who's going to step in to replace them? And they really embodied the concept of no star defense. We'll do it together. So that's a great question because it is really a great team defense where there's, you know, not one specific guy that stands out. There's been a lot of guys that have been held out of games because they've been hurt. But one of those guys is who I'm actually going to point to as probably one of the key pieces to if we do make a national championship run to making a national championship run, and that's Will Johnson. So he hasn't played a ton so far this year because he had some injuries coming out of camp, but he's a guy that I think is has the ability to lock down Ohio State receivers. He's the guy that I see as a future first-round draft pick in the NFL. He's only a sophomore this year, so we still got him for this year and next year at least, but I think that healthy Will Johnson is for sure a key piece of becoming the star in a no-star defense. And the second guy that I'm going to point to is Chris Jenkins. Our defensive line has really shut down every run game that has come our way. And Nebraska was supposed to be the leading rushing team coming into last week, and we really completely shut their offense down. And a big part of that is what our interior defensive line does. And Chris Jenkins is the leader there. He's a freak when it comes to how physically strong and athletic he is. And in addition to being able to just completely wreck an interior offensive line, he's actually a really good pass rusher too. He can really change the line of scrimmage on passing downs to put a center or guard in the quarterback's lap. So those are the two guys that I look to as kind of the stars so far or throughout the course of the year, the two guys that I really expect to be the stars and anchors of that defense.
Yeah, I think,
Jason, what about you?
Yeah, so I think when you mentioned zero-star defense, I think that's the culture that we build. That's our coaching staff, and that's just the player mentality right now. We've heard some players, so AJ Barner transfer from Indiana. We've heard him talk about that too. Like he wants to win games. It's not none of these guys on this team, and I'm just talking Michigan here, right? None of these guys on this team care about individual stats. None of them. They care about the team and the end goal of winning a national championship and beating our biggest rivals as well too, getting to that end goal. I think the most valuable players for me on our defense is definitely, and I agree with everything that Derek said and what Dre's about to say too, but Mike Sandstrom, absolute beast, converted wide receiver from last year. he looks like he's been in that role forever, which I believe he played defensive back in high school, a little defensive back in high school as well too. But he is just an absolute stud, a leader on defense. I don't know if you guys saw that interception that he had against Nebraska too. Like I didn't even realize he picked that ball off until Rutgers week. I didn't even realize he picked that ball off until he made it to the 50-yard line. Like he's just an absolute athlete. Can play offense and defense. Which I wish we'd kind of utilize him a little bit on some trick plays on offense, but who knows? We might see that this weekend. Wink, wink. But I think he's got to stay healthy for us, and we need him on defense. He is a key player. And then I'm also gonna go Chris Jenkins. I gotta say the same player as Derek McCarty. I think there's Junior Colson's another guy to name too, but for a linebacker. But Chris Jenkins, he led our team last year on that defensive line. So a lot of people think of Mozzie Smith, but he led that defensive line in tackles last year. Could have went to the draft, came back. So those who stay, right? He's a leader on our defense. He needs to stay healthy. We need him to stop the run, and he's showing it last year, and he's showing it this year. There's a lot more players I want to mention right now, but you're giving us two, so I'm going to stick with that. Dre, what do you got?
I'm a piggyback off y'all, and I'm gonna take Kenneth Grant, our defensive tackle. He's been wrecking the inside, been stopping the plug and the run. He's gonna have to play a big part this week against you guys. And my second pick is the linebacker Ernest Hausman, our transfer that came in. Man, he has been really, really great at the linebacker position, opposite of Junior Colson. So those are my two guys. I think those two guys especially are gonna have to play a big role this weekend in the passing game and the running game. So those are my two guys.
And speaking of Kenneth Grant, so that dude was he is a very, very, very massive human being. He was a massive human being coming out of high school, and he's another one of those players on defense that's a sophomore. But if you want to see a massive human being be an athlete, number one, go look at his interception last week against Nebraska.
Who blocked that ball though? Who batted that ball up, Derek?
Braden McGregor. Yeah.
McGregor. He's
and then
go back too.
And go back the week before and watch on Mikey Sainrisdale's interception. Watch big Kenneth Grant sprinting downfield, lead blocking for him. That's a good call, Dre. That guy, I'm jacked. It is hard to come up with two guys.
Dude, that was that Rutgers quarterback's last breath.
Man.
He got put in the dirt. Like he's still probably there in the field right now. Grant was running with Sanisdale and just threw him like a rag doll. It was insane.
Yeah.
And I don't want to laugh. I don't want to see a player get injured, but I'm not going to lie. I chuckled a little bit. It was a couple chuckles. It was crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But let's segue that over to you guys. So, Michigan's offense, I wouldn't say that it's been necessarily sexy by some standards of fans of college football looking for the big highlight plays. But one of the most efficient offenses in all of college football. And Joel Klatt described it best this past week that Michigan's a boa constrictor. Right? It's not going to be flashy, but they're just going to tighten up and tighten up and tighten up and tighten up until you can't really move anymore. So what do you expect out of your defense this week when Michigan has the ball?
Missed tackles. That's what we had. That's what we had last week. It's gonna sound, and I'm not being, some Gopher fans don't like it when you take, actual constructive criticism about your team. But I'm just being honest here. It sounds dumb, but I'm honestly more worried about our defense this week than I'm on our offense, just because. Like I said, the linebackers are so inexperienced. We were all counting on this big year for Cody Lindenberg, who's a big, fast, athletic guy, and he was going to be his first year taking over the start in the middle. He hasn't played it down yet. Got injured right before the Nebraska game. It was they didn't say a timetable, but they said, nothing serious. Well, we're like halfway through the season almost, and he still hasn't played a snap. So we're relying on a redshirt freshman, a redshirt sophomore, who both really haven't played actual defensive snaps until this year. They've been pretty good against the run, but then it's just, their pass coverage been brutal, which has caused issues with the secondary because Tyler Nubin is a stud. He gets to kind of roam at times, but I feel like with some of the shortcomings happening elsewhere, he's maybe trying to do a little bit too much, and kind of maybe forcing stuff that's not there or trying to jump stuff that's not there, and it's just creating more problems. So assuming they can come out and fill the right gap, they're not dumb. I just think they get lost. They're young. They're not used to seeing everything. They've been tackling pretty well for the most part. So that's my biggest concern, I guess, is just the linebackers going into this game. D-line's been a pleasant surprise. I really don't think they've had many issues, except which is going to come into play this week again is containing the quarterback. They've been getting pressure, but it's like they don't stay in their lanes. And we let Ben Bryant from Northwestern scramble out and extend plays on us. It's like, well, if that guy's going to extend plays on you, there's not many quarterbacks you're going to face that aren't going to be able to extend plays on you. So, it comes down to fundamentals because, like I said, I think this defense could be really good, and it's got some strong players in the secondary, but the secondary is also struggling right now just because of other things going on. But so that's my, I guess, doom lookout, but that's just how I see it right now.
I like how you started your response. So that's good.
Yeah.
These tackles.
It's true though. Last week, the Gophers are playing the Raging Cajuns, which is a good team, but as a Big Ten opponent, you'd think that you'd kind of be a little more clean throughout the game. And I think that the first half last week, frankly, was a little egregious, especially defensively. Like Kurt said, defense has been struggling containing the quarterback. And it's like we're not really filling the passing lanes. Like those assignments aren't being completed, and that's honestly hurt. Our linebackers were missing tackles, last game in the first half. You just can't do that, especially in Big Ten plays, because they're going to punish you for that. They'll go for, an extra 10 yards or even a touchdown if you keep missing tackles. So, just like Kurt said, those fundamental things, which again is uncharacteristic of this Joe Rossi defense, that just needs to be cleaned up. Secondary wise, I was coming in with kind of a positive outlook on the secondary, but I've been pretty disappointed with them too, especially from Tyler Nubin, who's an All-American safety. It seems like the past couple of games, he's kind of lost rhythm. He definitely is still, a top guy. He can get things done, but it's almost as if, to me, it seems like Joe Rossi is implementing something in this defense that's complex for this team or something, because they just don't seem like they're, able to, conduct whatever they're, whether that's filling gaps, protection, whatever it is. It just seems like something's a little off with the defense. In the second half, it was much better. I thought we contained quarterback last week a lot better. I'm impressed with Jack Henderson. He's a nickelback. He's a transfer from Southeastern. I think he's a great player, and he's really stepped up, especially when Tyler Nubin hasn't. So, I just, this Michigan game, it's going to be back to fundamentals, just like Kurt said. Just make tackles, do your job, fill in the gaps, and then hopefully, you can just limit the big plays and hopefully, on third downs, complete the down, get it to fourth down so they can punt the ball away. That's a big thing too. And as long as they can stay disciplined, maybe they have a chance at keeping the game a little interesting.
Yeah, defensively, a lot of times you hear about big time offensive matchups, game will turn to a track meet, and if you're going to play a team like a USC, or the cliche of like, well, can the offense keep pace, or can the offense keep up? For this game, it feels like, can our defense keep pace with the Michigan defense and just getting stops? Because it feels like it's either going to be good versus good, just run defense versus run offense. But if our defense continues to give up those big chunk plays or not contain the quarterback, then we don't stand a chance, because it doesn't matter how well you can stop the run if you can just pick up 10 yards through the air, or 10, 12 yards through a quarterback scramble, because we only bring 3 on 3rd and long. Things like that just drive us crazy. And the positive I would take away from this defense, and Kurt, you alluded to it, it is something new that we haven't really had in a long time in the defensive front. It's just the size and the depth that everyone can step up. It's kind of everyone's fresh, and it is nice to have that consistent run front every single play. But when we get into those 3rd and long passing situations, we bring 3, no stunts, no blitz, give the quarterback all day to throw because we're not getting home, we're not containing, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, hopefully we can, like I said, keep pace defensively, which doesn't make any sense, I know, but that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? What do you think the secret ingredient would be for your defense to slow down the Michigan offense? Now, keep in mind, Michigan offense is relatively slow at their pace of play. They're completely content with 3 to 4 possessions a half, and scoring anywhere between 17 to 28 points out of those 3 to 4 possessions. That they're happy with that, because they know that their defense probably is giving up 3 to 7. But what do you think the secret ingredient is to shorten up those possessions, force Michigan punts, not allow them to get on the scoreboard?
I would still key it on sound run defense, and I'm not taking shots at JJ at all. He's a terrific quarterback, but I just think your best bet to win the game is to just make him consistently hit guys down the field on you. He's shown the ability to do that. I as a Gopher fan, I'd rather take my chances doing that than let Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards just gash you to death, and just the slow. I want to go out swinging. I don't want the slow, suffocating death. I don't care if we lose by 40, but as long as we blitzing after them and going after them, that's how I want to go down. And yeah, I think the run defense has been solid at times. So just staying in your run fits and stuff like that, and then just maybe double. Is it Roman Wilson? Is it? Yeah. Maybe giving some help on that guy, but we've had a lot of guys running free in the secondary the past 2 games, so. We'll see. Might as well bring pressure then if you're not going to cover them. Hopefully you make a man miss. So,
like Kurt said, JJ McCarthy is a great quarterback, but I think a good way to hopefully kind of stir things up is maybe hopefully getting some turnovers. I saw in the Bowling Green game against Michigan Bowling Green, JJ throws 3 interceptions. So, and obviously, second game of the year, you kind of iron out the wrinkles there. I get it. Things happen. A little more disciplined and, on point, as the season goes on. But maybe kind of cause some disruption, make them, go deep, maybe get some interceptions. So, again, we can just, maintain possession of the ball, just prevent them from getting the ball on offense and hopefully scoring some points when the Gophers are on offense. So controlling the turnover battle, being disciplined, like Kurt said, passing lanes, and containing the quarterback and just making tackles.
Yeah, when we're on defense, you kind of have to play perfect. It sounds simple, but it's got to be mistake free. It's got to be smart, and we got to understand you guys are gonna make plays.
Beat the guy in front of you. It's that easy.
Yeah, of course. Doesn't matter how many NFL guys you got. Just stop them, right? It's that easy.
Yeah.
Potentially 15 to 20 draft picks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just every game so far. The defensive letdowns, other than playing Drake May, obviously have been. We've just shot ourselves in the foot. Like you said, not containing. Everything we've done has kind of been to our detriment. So obviously it's got to be perfect defense, but on top of that, to even have a chance, to me, it's the special teams too. I mean, we've got to do well pinning you guys deep. You know, our offense is, you know, any turnover our offense gets is just giving you guys points. Like,
Yeah. Don't get us going on special teams. They're brutal.
Spencer's over here just shaking his head like.
Don't.
I mean, it's been a problem since PJ has gotten to the University of Minnesota. It has been a problem. Everyone has talked about it, and it's not gotten better. It has not gotten better. And it's really irritating because, like Max is saying, you know, you want to at least make Michigan go 90 yards, right? Make them earn a touchdown or 3 points, whatever it is. But when you can't do that, or when on the flip side, when you're punting and our returner is not competent and will pin himself within the 10 because he doesn't let the ball roll into the end zone, or he tries to go for a ball and trips himself up and run out of bounds. It just
he caught a ball. He caught a kickoff and went out at the 4 last week against the Raging Cajun. So it's like, what are you doing?
And that's a penalty, and you start at the 35-yard line.
Just
it's like
touch it and take it at the 25. I don't want to rip on an individual player too much, but it's like he was this walk-on receiver and gained PJ's trust, and now he's done nothing but kind of just been a liability. But he's the only guy we stick back there. It's like PJ talks about how we have like the most explosive guys in his tenure here, and we just don't put him out on special teams to return the football. I'm like, great, this makes no sense. Sean Tyler,
Alabama concept, the best players should be returning kicks.
Yeah, well, Tyler Newbin's on kickoff. I don't get why we can't have Sean Tyler returning kicks. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
And I don't want to rant too much on this, but like Sean Tyler, speaking of him, Eastern Michigan, he fumbles the ball twice. He's essentially benched for 2 games. We don't see him really play. He makes blunders. PJ's like, nope, you got to learn from your mistakes. This guy has made some bad blunders on special teams, Quentin Redding. And like Kurt said, he's a walk-on. You root for the guy. You want to see him succeed. But he makes 2 critical mistakes on special teams, but he doesn't get benched. I don't know what the formula is with PJ. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. But
you're year 7 and you're using a walk-on receiver as your return man. I just don't understand. Like he's
well,
not.
PJ said he's well coached and he's likable. So
and he said he's got his trust. I don't know how you lose PJ's trust at this point because it's impossible for number 81 back there.
Yeah. This is the same kid on punt coverage against Northwestern when we punted from Northwestern 37 that went to down the ball at the goal line and down it in the end zone.
Yeah, he just watched it roll to him in the end zone. Sorry, we went off on that.
Go for special teams.
That's all good. That's good content. Like I got some news for you guys. I think we're going to be able to help you out.
Oh, y'all good.
If it can be a 0 on special teams, we just agree to give each other the ball at like the 25. I would take that right now because it's been bad.
Yeah, that's been the approach that a couple of teams have taken is doing some weird stuff to us on special teams. And against Bowling Green, it led to a turnover.
Almost twice.
Almost two. But let's flip to what to look for with Michigan having the ball. So, you know, you guys are talking about trying to take away the run game and force JJ to win the game throwing the ball. And you know, a couple of highlights from Michigan's offense this year is Blake Corum leads college football in rushing touchdowns. Roman Wilson leads college football in receiving touchdowns. And JJ McCarthy actually very quietly has the best QBR in college football right now. And that includes an absolute horrible game that he had against Bowling Green because he has been borderline perfect in the other 4 games with that. So that being said, Dre, let's start with you. What do you expect to see this week out of Michigan's offense?
I expect to see JJ with a clean pocket. I think our run game, now that our offensive line is starting to gel and it's 2 games, there's been going good for us. I think this is where we take off. This is the week we take off, and we have a big running game. I think JJ gets Roman a couple more pass touchdowns, but I think this is going to be all about our running game this week with our offensive line. Jim is back, so our identity is running. So I think he establishes that more. No doubt that we're going to pass, but I think it's going to be more of a run game. And I think Blake, Mullins, and Edward goes off this week.
Yeah, Jason, what about you?
Yeah, pretty much everything that Dre said. I mean, we have seen a lot more passing this year. I mean, everyone's for now has heard about Corum and Edwards running the ball down opponents' throats. So, especially the first 4 games, our opponents on defense have been stacking the box. I gotta give credit to the offensive line. That's a game changer. We're pretty much 10 deep right there, 8 to 10 deep guys, and JJ had all the time in the world last week. He could pretty much do whatever he wants with it. And a lot of people, I mean, I don't think they talk about it enough, but we got a mobile quarterback. He scored a rushing touchdown last week. He can run the ball. So I think we're going to see another game again. Still want to give credit to Minnesota's defense. I still don't think they're that bad as what Nebraska's is, even though they came in with like the number 1 rushing defense as well too. But I think we're going to be able to do what we want here. And Dre alluded to opening up the rushing game. And I think we're going to see that a lot too with our offensive line gelling together, especially from last week. I think Roman Wilson has caused a lot of attention to himself for very, very good reasons. That crazy catch behind the helmet with the Nebraska defender. And that's going to leave the door open to some of those younger guys too. So Tyler Morris, Darius Clemens, and then Colston Loveland and AJ Barner as well too. So it all starts with our offensive line, and they have been playing tremendous, especially last week, giving JJ some time to throw the ball.
Yeah, and I would not be
Shout out
completely
my bro Zach
surprised.
Zenner.
Oh, absolutely. Zach Zenner hasn't allowed a sack, hasn't allowed a QB pressure. That's our boy. Thanks for representing us. But, I mean, he's been playing outstanding. Got a shout-out from one of the announcers, too, last week, too, just pushing guys in the end zone on the goal line. He's just an absolute beast this year. Absolute beast.
One thing I wouldn't be surprised to see this week is I wouldn't be super surprised to see a slow start by Michigan's offense. So everyone that so we got to remember, like, if we just play this game on paper, yeah, Michigan has Minnesota outmatched, but this is for Minnesota's schedule right now at this point. This is their shot at the big dog. So they're going to come in at home under the lights. They're going to be ready to go. PJ Flack is, regardless of how you feel.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, regardless of how you feel about him, he's going to be amped up, running up and down the sideline. You know that he's going to have energy on the sideline. So night games are difficult to play on the road. We're talking about 18 to 21-year-old kids for the most part right now, and they have game day routines that they're used to. And when you have to go and wait all day long on a Saturday to play a game at night on the road at a hotel, just kind of hang around, have a couple meals throughout the course of the day with the team, I wouldn't be completely surprised if there's a little bit of slow start.
I can't speak for Minnesota players, but I have talked to a lot of the Michigan players, and they don't like night games. They don't like sitting around, like you said, doing nothing all day. They'd rather get it over with. And you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I can't speak for the Minnesota players, but a lot of the Michigan players do not like a light game.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll point to this year, one thing that I've been really impressed with since Jim Harbaugh came back is Sharon Moore and the way that he's been running this offense. It's been, I think maybe it's Isaiah Hole that coined this phrase, but death by 1,000 paper cuts is kind of the Michigan offense, where it's just 5 yards, 4 yards, 3rd and 1, 3 yards for a first down, 5 more yards, 6 yards. That's kind of the Michigan offense, and then maybe a chunk play here and there. And I think that's what they're going to come into this game. I don't think they're going to go away from what their identity is. They're they're going to have multiple tight ends on the field. They're going to be running the football. They're going to try and control the clock. They're going to try and control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They're going to throw strategically to beat the defense, to try and get maybe Cornelius Johnson or Roman Wilson in space a little bit, Colston Loveland in space, throw to keep them off balance, and throw high percentage routes that keep drives being efficient. That's what I think we're going to see. I just wouldn't be completely surprised if it's a slow start in the first quarter or two. And then second half, that's where Michigan's body shots really tend to add up, is when that defensive line is getting hit by those linemen and those tight ends for the third straight quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys want to go into score predictions? Because I guess the questions I've left for you guys are just some thoughts on your guys' thoughts on Michigan football, kind of more long term for the season. But if you wanted to, we could get into score predictions now if you guys are ready.
Sure.
For you got for us.
Ready? Come on with it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I would love to see the Gophers come out swinging. I think they'll still try and probably trying a little bit too long to establish the run. So I think that'll slow us down. Like I said, Michigan's defense hasn't given up more than 7 points this season. So maybe this is the bold prediction. I have Michigan. You guys alluded to it. I have a pretty similar game to last week going. I have 39-13 Michigan in this one. Just not. I don't think this is the right spot to get you guys. That sounds obvious, but like the defense has too much stuff they're trying to figure out. Just assignment wise to even come up and try and shock the world this time. I think so. I don't feel like it's the week to do it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they let Ethan throw close to 30 times. Doesn't usually happen though. So yeah, that's my score.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. I would agree though. If PJ comes out like fired up and the team does, I think that they can hang in there. But it's gonna be really difficult, and I've not been very impressed with this defense as of late. So I'm gonna go with Michigan winning 34-10.
Yeah, we got a pretty similar score. I hope we can come out early and maybe score a quick touchdown on the first drive. Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to it before, whether or not we're going to, try any trick plays. I hope the offense can sort of use tempo to their advantage to kind of lull the defense to sleep and then maybe run up to the line quick and throw a deep ball or do some sort of quick play. But I've got us at 34-14 losing. I think Michigan, every game, you look at every score, it's like a formula. It's like 34-6, 35-7 every single game. I'm hoping the lesser opponents that Michigan's played so far is maybe where we can come out and, surprise them a little bit, but I doubt, we're not going to be anything too crazy that Michigan isn't ready for. So the Gopher fan in me wants us to keep it close, but I think by the end, we can't keep up with this, with both sides of the ball.
And the big reasons, before I turn over to you guys, just Darius Taylor's banged up. I hope he plays. We have no idea if he's going to play, and still no Cody Lindenberg, who, like I said, he was the dude at linebacker. So not having him this year, those are two killers. This matchup.
Yeah, and I think I'm on the same page as you guys. Like you're saying, Max, it's almost like there's a formula for Michigan football games, and I think it'll be 35-10.
It's exactly what I'm predicting is 35-10. I think we give up the most points this year. It's a night game. Might come out maybe a little bit sloppy offensively because of that, but I'm thinking a prediction of 35-10 Michigan.
Well, boys, y'all know me. I go with the wild predictions, but this week I'm gonna hold us down. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Minnesota scores more than 3 points, and we beat them 42-3.
I wish I could say that's impossible.
The Michigan fan will take
it. It's not unreasonable by any means. I would not be surprised.
2 years ago, Big Ten championship game, 42-3 Iowa. That's Trey's prediction. I love that prediction.
42-3.
That as a Michigan fan.
And you know what, like you guys were talking about, right? So even if Michigan's offense does start slow, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan's defense gets a couple takeaways, a couple short fields in the first half to compensate for the offense. I can't help but remember a couple years ago when they played when Mike Barrett hit your quarterback and the ball popped up in the air. And
rough. It was in 2020 at Minnesota, I believe.
Oh, the COVID year.
Yeah,
That game was
yeah.
a
COVID
crap
year.
show.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Charbonnet
We don't count that
touchdown.
year here. You guys
Yeah.
don't count that game.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't count that year either.
We count some
we don't count
games.
that year.
You count the
count
jug,
some
and
games.
then you leave the rest off. That's
Yeah,
fair.
that's pretty much it. But that was a brutal hit. It's a brutal hit.
Yeah, that was a rough.
I thought Joe Milton was going to win the Heisman that year. Then later he got benched. We made him look amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, against Rutgers.
Hey, to be honest, us as Michigan fans thought Joe Heisman was about to be that guy, but he didn't work out for us.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that year
because good in Tennessee though.
Because Cody Lindenberg started that game as a true freshman, and he had about 2 practices under his belt because they didn't know if the game was going to happen or not, and he just got thrown out there, and it was a mess.
Thrown out there, yeah. That year was crazy.
Just a couple long-term projections since Michigan's been in the college football playoff the last 2 years and has hopes to go back, obviously, again. Does it worry you? Kind of 2-1. Do you think against Georgia, who can probably at times, if they want to shut down the run, dedicate more people to the box, they probably can because they're that good. Is JJ good enough to get it done? And 2, do you worry that your offense is very efficient now, but a lot of teams tend to talk about big plays and how, the more big plays you have, the less efficient you have to be and the harder, it's harder to be so efficient consistently down the field. That's why big plays are important because you take out that room for error, so to speak, of, the next drive from going in from the 12 or whatever. So does the lack of big plays, probably not at this point, but is that a concern going forward? And is JJ good enough to go basically do what CJ Stroud did to them the other year?
I'll start. I think JJ is way more good enough, especially with a full off season with the starters and the reps that he got. And as far as big plays, they come and go. I don't think we need them as much. I think they're flashy and you can come get chunk yards quicker. But if we dinking and dunking for 15 and 13 and 8 is still the same thing in my opinion. So I don't think it hurts us. Do all of us Michigan fans wish it happens? Oh yes. I wish we was throwing the ball up and down the field, but it's not who we are.
Yeah, so I'll touch on both those things too. So when it comes to big plays in the outlook of the season, I think there's games where big plays are going to be important. Like you look at the Ohio State game last year, and that game we exploded for a ton of big plays against them, and that was huge. I think that I like.
Too, though, D.
Yeah, runs and passes. It was both. And if you look at Michigan's big plays the last couple of years, a lot of them have actually been in the run game. And there's a lot of times where we're that close where Blake is getting tripped up by an arm coming across his ankle. And Donovan is, if he just broke the one tackle, he's got open field. And that might be just some of the extra attention that's put on the running game. That teams are a little more conscious of their run fits and more conscious of the blocking schemes that Michigan's bringing at them. But I think I like living by death by a million paper cuts and having big play potential to pop out of that because Roman Wilson's got 4.3 speed. Donovan Edwards can take it to the house any play. JJ McCarthy himself has 4.4 speed. Running from the quarterback position. Cornelius Johnson can be a big play threat. Darius Clemens He has been battling through some injuries early in the season. He just started to make his way back on the field against Nebraska. So I think that the big play threat is there. But that's not their identity. Their identity is we're gonna beat the crap out of you, and some big plays might happen at the same time. When it comes to JJ, I think that with the offensive line that he has in front of him, the 2 running backs that he has behind him, the tight ends that he has this year, and the receivers this year, I think the supporting cast around him will help him put the game on his shoulders if we have to. And if it comes to a big game with Georgia, now you're looking at a huge talent discrepancy on paper again there. But I think that it would end up being more about, can our defense stop that talented offense, or is it going to turn into a shootout? And then is it just going to turn into who's got the better athletes in a track meet to end up scoring the most points? So I think JJ has the potential. I would trust him with how efficient he's been this year.
So I think just real quick, as we got a few minutes left here, but under Jim, our bowl record hasn't been great, and that includes the last 2 college football playoff games, like 1-6 or something right now. So we didn't pass the ball that much last year, and I think that kind of hurt JJ a little bit with the reps and forcing some passes in there against TCU. Because let's be honest, and I'm saying this as a football fan, I think we beat TCU 9 times out of 10 that we played them last year, for sure. Now we go along and play Georgia again as well too, if we beat TCU. And let's be honest too, I mean, we ran into a semi-pro NFL team against Georgia a couple years back. I mean, that team was just absolutely just freakish. JJ came in late. He's a mobile quarterback. He looked pretty good against that defense. Maybe not all starters, but still, they were deep. They were NFL semi-pro ready deep. I trust JJ. He's getting a lot more reps in passing if that's the game we have to go to. And also, too, like, teams have to choose. They've been hearing about Corman Edwards and our Joe Moore, 2-time Joe Moore offensive line, right? So they got to choose. Are you going to defend the pass, or are you going to defend the run game now? And that's the identity of our offense right now. And we don't have to be flashy. We don't have to do anything we want to show right now to our biggest rivals. And then big games coming up against Penn State and Ohio State at the end of the year. So we're just playing our game right now. Derek alluded to Joe Glatt, mentioned that we're a bowl constrictor, and that's kind of what our game is right now, is to take control of offense, defense, and special teams. So we'll wrap up here from the Victors Nation pod and joint podcast with Sky U pod. Sky U pod, real quick, where can our followers and Minnesota followers find you guys?
Yeah, you can listen to our podcast pretty much on any podcast listening platform you perform. We're at SkyUPod. We're on Twitter or X, whatever you're calling it, at SkyUPod1. And I think we got a Facebook page up, kind of working on that part. And then we're also on YouTube now as we're all going video. So yeah, we're at SkyUPod on YouTube as well. So that's where you can find our stuff.
Awesome. So it was a pleasure having you guys on here and collaborating and bantering a little bit back and forth about strategies and matchups. So appreciate you guys on. Kurt, Max, Spencer from Sky U Pod. Thanks, guys. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Thank you,
Go.
guys.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
us
guys.
on.
Enjoy the game.